All right, welcome everyone to the info session. So this should be pretty fun. Hopefully this clarifies a lot about the program. My name is Kevin. I'll sort of walk you through uh, what's going on in the program overall. So how does it work? What are like the goals? Just in general, answering any of your questions. At any time you can feel free to either unmute or you can ask in the chat or in the private chat if you don't want other people to see. Um, but yeah, I'll also like stop for questions at the end as well. Um, so cool. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So first, as an introduction, basically, yeah, I'm Kevin. I'm the director of the program. A little bit about me. I graduated from Berkeley 3 years ago. I was a computer science student, which probably is similar to most of you guys. Um, I was pretty involved in the teaching community. So I was the head TA for the algorithms course and also the lecturer for a decal called Algorithmic Thinking that I created. Um, and I was also pretty involved in the research community as well. So I did research at Rise Lab, which is Berkeley's systems lab, although nowadays they do a lot of LLM stuff and machine learning in general. Then after I graduated, I worked in the industry for a bit. So I started out at Citadel as a quantitative researcher. Basically, that's like applying AI research, but to the stock market. And then I also worked as a software engineer at Palantir. But ever since fall of 2023, I've been working on Algoverse full time. So I'll tell you more about that. But yeah, nowadays I basically just do full-time LLM research. So helping across like the different teams with, in general, like a bunch of different topics. So it could be reasoning, could be like bias evals, could be lots of stuff. Um, but yeah, that's sort of like my background. Um, on the top here, Osley and Ben are two of our mentors. So we have other mentors too, but I guess too many to fit the slide. So just highlighting these two. Osley, I also met at Berkeley. We were there at the same time. She graduated from her master's also in computer science. She was pretty involved in teaching as well. So we first met through teaching the discrete math class together. Although nowadays she also teaches software engineering. She's like the instructor for the summer. So yeah, she teaches the class there. And then she also works full time as like a VC analyst at a venture capitalist firm. Um, and yeah, so she works on Algoverse as like a mentor on the side as well. She's been here with us for the past year. Ben is an incoming medical student at Stanford, um, and he also graduated from his master's and bachelor's in CS from Stanford as well. Um, so yeah, his specialty is anything medical or biology related. So like genetics or like say surgery or anything like that, and their applications to AI. So if you're working on, or if you're interested in working on any sort of like medical slash AI project, definitely he's your guy there, and you'll be able to work with him. Uh, and then on the bottom, we have three of our directors. So Vasu, um, luckily he's not here, so I can praise him without him like telling me to stop. But yeah, basically he's like a one of the world's like top researchers. He's extremely experienced. He's been in the field since like when I first began with like AlexNet in like 2011, 2012. Um, and yeah, he specializes in multimodal, so it could be images like visual stuff or text-based like LLMs. And yeah, so he's a research scientist lead at Meta. So he's been like involved. He was a tech lead for the pre-training for Dino V2 and also the recent Llama 4. And yeah, he's just generally very experienced. And then yeah, Sean and Andy are two of our other directors. They're both PhD students. Sean's specialty is in LLM reasoning, especially, although he also works on across the board in LLM stuff. So code generation, long form generation, like extended dialogues, multi-turn conversations, um, as well as also like reinforcement learning too. And then Andy is LM agents. So how do you get agents to, for example, browse Amazon and buy something for you? Is like something that he'd be interested in. And yeah, in general, just like having LM agents, like theory of mind, and yeah, other stuff like that. So yeah, that's like a bit of our team. You'll get to meet us like throughout the program. Um, but yeah, I guess I'll just move on for now. I do have a lot of content to cover, so sorry. I know that I'm talking like really fast. Um, yeah, if you guys have any questions, you guys can feel free to like stop me at any time. Okay, so about the program. So I'll start from like the high level and then go down to like low level. So on a high level, basically, we're trying to do real AI research. So yeah, that's like the primary goal that we're doing. We want to like make an actual contribution to the field that might have some sort of impact. Um, what's cool is that in 2025, for LLMs, this is actually like doable. This is kind of a first in history. Like if you were to say, for example, try to do other research topics, it'd be much harder. There's more low-hanging fruit in LM research just because it's so new. Like the field only just started blowing up after GPT or like ChatGPT in like late 2022. So yeah, for now we actually are able to like do really advanced things that people actually are interested about and care about without too high of a barrier of entry of like just tons of domain knowledge that you need to get familiar with. Um, there are definitely a lot of things you need to learn, and so we'll teach you all the fundamentals. And just like through our mentorship, we'll know like what directions are promising. Um, but yeah, I guess this is actually doable, which is pretty great. So we'll be aiming for like the top tier ML conferences, which people aim for, and that's sort of like how research gets progressed. It's via these like top conferences, and so we'll do the same. So here's like one paper that we did in the past. This one was accepted to a NeurIPS workshop, which I'll talk about soon. For reference, NeurIPS is like the top tier ML conference. Um, and it was also recently chosen as one of the 20 papers in OpenAI's paper bench. So that was also pretty amazing. Um, so if you haven't heard of it before, basically paper bench was something they released earlier this month, or I guess 1 month ago. Basically, they're just trying to see how well can AI replicate AI research. So to do that, they need to see some existing AI research papers that are representative of the field. So they took like 20, I guess like state of the art like ICML papers. They also did some NeurIPS papers too. And then we're testing for their agents, how well could they replicate? And so yeah, I guess our paper was one of those. So yeah, that was pretty amazing. Oops, that's the wrong slide. Um, yeah, so that was pretty amazing. I was like really surprised when I saw this. Because apparently OpenAI had been reaching out to our lead author, Tim, who's one of our students, since like November, but he just never told me. Like Tim never told me. Um, but yeah, it was because he was under an NDA for like non-disclosure, so he wasn't able to just say anything, or at least he was too scared to say anything. But yeah, anyways, so when I saw that, I was like super surprised because I'd been talking about it in other contexts, and then I just noticed that the paper was there. But anyways, yeah, that's just like one example of how like the paper could have like actual impact, which is pretty cool. Here's also the review that I got at NeurIPS. It's a bit of like a self pat on the back here, but I guess just as like evidence that it's a strong paper that makes available contribution. So yeah, pretty cool. This is something that you could actually do. The students here at the time were all high school students, which is pretty crazy that they were actually able to accomplish this. Um, and yeah, beginners like have no prior ML research experience. So um, yeah, pretty good stuff. Um, more details about conferences, and then I'll stop for questions real quick. So basically, yeah, well, first, it's pretty cool that we can even submit at conferences. This is not true in other fields, for example, like biology. Um, People typically only do this when they're affiliated with a university lab because there's like, tons of equipment that you need to buy. Maybe there's like specimens that you can't have access to unless you have like, some special access. So for us, as long as we have a GPU, then we can do that. And in our program, we'll sponsor the cost of GPUs and compute. So actually, you just need an internet connection. And then if you can do that, then it should be good to go. Um, so that's pretty cool. We'll aim for the standard top conferences that exist in ML. These are like highly prestigious and reputable. And this is what everyone like in the field goes for. So for reference, here's what they are. For ML, more broadly, there's like NeurIPS, iClear, ICML, AAAI, GMLR. For NLP, which is natural language processing, so anything LLM related, there's like ACL, EMNLP, knuckle, tackle, calling, column. And then for CV, which is computer vision, so anything processing visual input, there's like CVPR, ICCV, and ACCV. Um, and yeah, I guess you can fact check me. I'm not just like making this up. There is like the standard metrics that people use to rate conferences. So for example, like Google Scholar, they'll be using H5 index and then rating the different venues that exist. And you'll see that this like aligns with what I just said. So like NeurIPS, like this iClear, but just like spelled out, ICML, AAAI, and so on. And then same for the others as well. So like NLP, there's like ACL, NLP, and so on. Um, so yeah, there's always upcoming conferences. For this cohort in particular, like for the summer, we'll be aiming for NeurIPS because the NeurIPS workshops happen. Their due date is like roughly August or September. They haven't been released yet, but that's historically when they're always due at this time of the year. Um, but yeah, there's always open conferences, so they happen on like a 1 to 2 month cycle. Um, if you like miss the deadline, then you can always submit to the next one. Um, Let me just go clear that annotation that someone put here. Uh, okay. And then after that, so just like some notes, if you are in college, here's like, or an industry grad, here's like what that might be useful for. Um, Especially if you want to do grad school. I guess like this is like the name of the game. Everyone's just trying to submit here to, uh, yeah, improve their publication record to get into grad school and stuff. But if you want to go into SWE or like MLE or just like in the industry in general, the companies in the ML space should recognize this, at least especially the big ones. So like Google, Amazon, and like I guess like all those big tech companies, they'll know what these conferences are. Um, I guess like from my personal experience, I can talk about that as well. I guess like back when I was at Berkeley as a sophomore, um, even though like the industry was much easier back then, I guess like the market was not as bad. It was still really hard. So like I was not able to find anything in my sophomore fall. After applying to like over 100 places, didn't get like a single interview. So that was tough. But yeah, after I started doing research at Rise Lab in the spring, I was able to like reach out to a bunch of AI startups and then finally get my first offer there. So that's how I got my first internship at like an AI startup. And then also, if you're interested in quant, this was super useful for that too. I guess. So when I was applying to Citadel for reference, I was talking about this like in my interviews all the time, as well as like I guess there's like a thing where Ken Griffin, who's like the CEO of Citadel, at the very end does like a final check on whether I guess he approves that you can get hired or not, and then you have to give like a top 5 list of accomplishments that you give, and he'll basically vet that. And then in my case, yeah, one of them that I wrote was like my research output, and then he, yeah, basically just said he like marked that one and said that was like the one that sort of got me the offer at the end of the day. So, yeah, it should be quite useful for SWE or quant recruiting, or grad school. If you're in high school, I guess like one thing you should first know is that this is very different compared to like the standard high school science fairs. So, if you've heard of like ISEF, that's like what people often go for, or like JEI. Um, but yeah, the difference is that these are like I guess actual professional conferences, so you're going to be competing against like the top universities and industry labs. So I guess you can verify this too. For example, like Berkeley and Stanford NLP groups are the two best NLP groups in the world, and you'll see that they're also aiming for like NACL, Column, ACL, NACL, and so on. Or for Stanford, they're also going for example, like iClear. This is NACL, but just like spelled out. Like DeepMind, you can see like here's like their list of publications that they did at NeurIPS at 2024. Um, but yeah, so that's like yeah, a very different game. Like it's a lot more competitive. Um, and the cool thing is that admissions officers also do recognize this. So yeah, that's something I didn't know until last fall. There's I only started. Okay, so basically, what happened was after I started the program, there were just tons of high school students asking me basically this exact question, like how much do admissions officers care about this? So yeah, I talked to some officers at Stanford, Berkeley, Harvard, USC, Chicago, Duke, and a few other schools. Um, and yeah, basically across the board, they all said that they do recognize this. And it should make sense for why this is the case. Um, but yeah, I guess pragmatically, if you're interested in doing this for college apps, you can take comfort in knowing that like they do recognize these. Um, the big caveat though, across the board is that these conferences are very selective. So it's not like a walk in the park. You do need to put in a ton of work to make this to happen. The contribution itself to the field needs to have like genuine novelty. The experiments need to be done rigorously and follow all the conventions. And the paper itself should be like really clearly written. So in the program, this will take a lot of work and we'll guide you through this entire process. But yeah, it's difficult. So keep that in mind. Um, yeah, that being said, I guess the conferences are a great motivation fuel. So that's sort of what we'll always aim for within the program. And getting accepted would be amazing. So, that's sort of great. Like the mantra that we always go for is like, oh, what if we like, were to get accepted? We can't make any guarantees about acceptances. This should make sense. Like no one can make a guarantee, not even like say a Stanford lab can guarantee this because ultimately, I guess we're not like connected to the reviewers. Like the reviewers, you're getting randomly assigned some peer reviews, and yeah, you can't just like guarantee. Like even if the paper is really good, say the reviewer has like a bad day, and then just like gives you a bad score. Um, yeah, that's like not something that we can guarantee. Uh, But yeah, our track record is like pretty good. We've had a lot of papers get accepted in the past. Um, so as long as you like put in the work, on a high level, basically our directors, like Sean and Vasu, they have like very good vision on like, what is novel and what is like potentially going to be successful at these conferences. Uh, we just need to make sure that happens on a low level. So can we like figure out all the implementation steps and maintain our persistence across the entire program to actually like work hard and make this happen, basically. And then if that's the case, then our chances are going to be pretty good. Um, so yeah, in general, if you put in a lot of time, there's like yeah, lots of good stuff that could happen. I know that I've been talking for a while, so I'll just go ahead and take some time to answer some questions. I guess were there any questions that anyone's had so far on like the high level goal or conferences or sort of anything else? Okay, so a few questions. I'll go ahead and paste like the private questions in the chat so everyone can see. Okay, so is there a minimum quota for how many papers we need to publish? Uh, so within the context of the program, you'll be like working on a single paper. So it would be like, yeah, like throughout the program, you'll be working on one project. Let me know if I answered that question correctly. I might not have understood. Um, okay, do papers written through this program get cited frequently by outside sources? Uh, yeah, so we've done pretty well actually. So there's actually on our research page like some stats. I think at this point we're at like 26 citations in the past year, which is yeah quite good because it takes time for people to cite your research. Uh, like first they have to read it once it comes out if they do find it in the first place. Then after they read it, they have to actually do the project themselves and then get accepted, and so that takes a lot of time. So I guess like within the context of 1 year, like getting 26 citations is pretty great. Especially for high school students. Like I've never heard of like students at the high school level getting cited by other researchers. So um, yeah, that's pretty cool too. Um, so yeah, we've had like the OpenAI citation that I just showed. We've also had like Microsoft, Oxford, MIT, Princeton, and like just a bunch of other schools too. Okay. Um, what typically makes a difference between um, NeurIPS versus other conferences? Can we split research to journals as well? Uh, so okay, the difference between NeurIPS and the other ones on like this list, for example, like NeurIPS, Cycler, SML, there's not a big difference. They're basically very similar. Same thing here, like these are all very similar to each other. But there is a big difference between the ones on this list versus conferences in general. Um, like in each field, there are like thousands of conferences that exist. Many of them are like legitimately like predatory. Some of them are just like sort of unknown, and some of them are regional specific to like say, like a random place in Korea. Um, so these are like the standard like international conferences that people always care about. So if you're like looking to, I guess, put this on a resume and have it recognized, like I guess that's like the big difference there. So yeah, it's a lot more competitive because there's like a stringent like review process, and that's just like what the people in the field are paying attention to. So I guess like yeah, that's sort of why we go for this too. These are just the ones that everyone like cares about and are standard. Um, as for can we submit to journals as well? Uh, in general, for ML or like NLP or any of these AI more broadly, people submit to conferences instead of journals. So if you take a look at here, like this is a conference, 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 conference. I'm actually not sure about this. Haven't heard of these either. But yeah, in general, like they're always like conferences. The reason for that is because AI compared to other fields is much more fast paced. Um, if you've noticed and paying attention to the news in the past like 2 years, you'll see that developments happen extremely fast. Journals take a lot longer to get reviewed because the scope of submissions are much larger. So there's one like JMLR is like a journal, but in general, people just submit to conferences because the cycle happens too fast. So journals just become irrelevant really quick. Um, so yeah, we'll also be aiming for conferences. Question: as a grad student, am I eligible? Yeah, so you'll still be eligible. If you're already a grad student in AI, then I don't know how much like will help compared to just like what you're already getting from your professor. But if you're a grad student in another field, we've had some PhD students from like psychology and like other fields to our program if they want to have like a more AI emphasis. So that would be fine. Um, how does the matching process with companies and university research work? So yeah, I'm not sure if I'm understanding this question right, or maybe I should clarify. So um, yeah, we are not directly like collaborating with universities or companies in most of our projects. We've done that a few times in the past, but in general, we're doing research independently, like with our org. Um, like these companies and universities will be attending these conferences because they'll also be submitting their research there, but we're not like directly collaborating with them. Okay. How do you decide who gets what authorship? So yeah, this will be based on contributions. So basically, like, yeah, so for context, the program, each project will be done in teams of four, roughly four students. The reason why we do this is because we've experimented with other like numbers of students per project before. Um, but yeah, I guess the issue with like one or two people is just that there's just not enough like horsepower going into the project. It's just too much work for one or two people. Issue three people is pretty good. Three people is okay, so that's also okay. Four people works pretty well. Then once you get to like five or plus, five or more, then I feel like there are some people who just end up not doing as much, just because like there's less individual accountability once you get to like five people. Like I feel like the general mentality might be maybe someone else on my team could do it. So yeah, I would prefer not to get to like five or more. So we generally do like teams of four. But yeah, within the team of four, how the authorship contribution happens is based on contribution. So yeah, whoever does the most will get like first author. And then if it's like tied, like say everyone does roughly equal stuff, then we could denote like equal contribution. But yeah, whatever actually ends up, whoever ends up spending the most time and stuff. Um, okay. Another related question, may I ask if we write these papers, what author positions can we get? Yeah, so it could be, yeah, the students will always be the first authors. Um, and then so we do like the students will be like the first authors, and then your mentor and then the director working on your project as well. We will be at the very end. And they will be marked as like senior author. Uh, let's see. What exactly are we going to be doing with NeurIPS? So yeah, so NeurIPS is what we're going to be submitting to. So basically they'll have like an open submission portal, and then uh, after we write the paper, we'll submit it there, and then they'll review it. And then if we get accepted, then that's great. And you can choose whether or not you want to travel and attend and present your paper there. Question, will high school and undergrads work with each other? In general, no. So we split based on like age, like specifically like high school versus college, or industry grad as like separate like tracks. So yeah, if you're in college, you'll be matched with other college students. If you're in high school, you'll be matched with other high school students. In the majority of cases, there is the rare case if you go, if you're from a time zone that is unique. Like for example, say we only sometimes have a few people from Singapore or like Australia. In that case, like we just might not have like the ability to also split based on high school versus college. So yeah, specifically if you're from like Singapore or Australia, that's basically the only case in which we might not be able to guarantee this. Okay, how friendly is this program towards people who have not done research before? Would you be going through the best practices? Yeah, so we actually are intending this program for people who have never done research before, and you also don't need any prior AI experience as well. I recognize that this is like a very ambitious task to go from like nothing to like professional conference, and I might be like scaring you guys right now by like saying how competitive it is, but it is intended for people without prior background. So we start our lecture series from scratch, and we also have a lot of resources, which I'll show. Actually, I'll just like show right now. Um, like for reference, like here's like our research guide, and then here's like the program schedule. Like we'll start from the very beginning, like what even is research? Um, so we'll walk you through like how does research work, and then like topics that you could look into, like research papers and how to read them. So like going through like papers and seeing what those sections are about. We'll walk through this like in the lecture series. So I'm just showing the slides right now, but this will be covered like throughout the lectures. Um, and then, how to do literature review. So like how to find papers in general, how to find specific papers within a topic of interest, um, how to conduct literature review. I'll like do a demo on like how exactly that'll work, how to like read papers, how to like, replicate them, and then how to come up with ideas. So coming up with like research questions and project ideas, other guidelines for ideation, like pitfalls for that. So in general, we'll start from scratch and we'll walk you through the entire process. And then for like the program as well, like the content, we start in the very beginning with like what even is ML or like LLMs. So we're requiring no prior background. Um, and then also like an intro to Python, Colab, and Pandas. You should come into the program with Python experience, but besides that, that is basically the only prereq. So I'll also walk you through like the different coding libraries, so like Hugging Face or later like PyTorch for like model training. Um, but yeah, so we'll walk through everything, intro to like LLMs, neural networks, how does like training work, and so on. Okay, going back. Should the paper be related to LM research 100%? Like, can we link AI with other domains? Yeah, so one other track is apply them all. So you could do AI with other domains too. Question, can we publish multiple papers? How big are the teams? Do we select which topics we research? So publishing multiple papers, probably not. It's just that there's a lot of work that needs to be done within 12 weeks. So publishing like say 2 or 3 papers within that time, that just seems like very, very hard and not really doable. That being said, there have been like 2 or 3 people in the past who have done that. Um, we added them since they're doing like so well on their first project. I figured this other team needs help. Maybe I'll just add them to 2 projects. So if you're like spending a ton of time and you're like a really high performer, I would be open to it. But in general, everyone should be aiming for 1 paper. Are high school students allowed to submit to these top conferences, or do you need to submit to high school stuff? Yeah, so we submit all our high school papers to top conferences. We don't actually aim for ISF or JEI or any of the high school level stuff. Um, yeah, so you'll also be aiming for the top conferences. Question, do you have to be on a team to write this paper? Yeah, in general, yes. So we used to offer the one-on-one like option, but this is just like too much work for one person to do the paper. So we've had like 2 or 3 successful cases in the past of a solo author getting published, but that's because they were like really, really, really amazing, and they like a ton of time, and they were like extremely competent and skilled. Um, so in general, we don't recommend having a one-on-one project. So nowadays we only restrict to teams. Question, I'm a freshman with little experience in AI research. How much knowledge or experience you need to be successful? So yeah, just to clarify one more time, yeah, you don't need any prior background. I feel like I might have like scared you guys a little too much with like saying how competitive these things are. I mean, they are very competitive, but like, yeah, you don't need any prior AI experience. We will start from scratch, and you don't need any prior research experience either. Uh, I've already enrolled in the program. Am I supposed to be getting information for the program? Uh, yeah, if you've already enrolled, I guess I'll look forward to working with you soon. I guess, yeah, you can still stay here if you want to get some more info. This is fully optional, so you don't have to be attending this, but I guess if you find it useful, feel free to stay. For the summer course, when will we know if our paper got accepted, and will we submit it to multiple tracks? So, yeah, typically the conferences, they'll hear back within a few weeks to 1 month to maybe 2 months at latest, depending on the conference. So, for example, for NeurIPS, we'll be aiming for like August, September submissions, which means you'll hear back in sometime in like October. So yeah, I guess pragmatically, if you're applying for colleges in like early application or whatever, this will arrive in time. So yeah, last year our NeurIPS authors who got accepted, they heard back basically a few weeks right before their early applications were due. How flexible is the program in terms of interdisciplinary AI research? Can we explore applications of AI in other fields, or is it strictly focused on LLMs? Yeah, so we can do applied ML as well. There's a few caveats I'll say. So for one, uh, you can work on one of the domains that our mentors already have a lot of prior background in, and that will have a higher chance of succeeding. For example, Ben specializes in anything to do with like medicine or biology. So I guess that's like pretty broad, but especially surgery because that's his specialty. But yeah, anything in biology or medicine that'll work well. If you want to do, there are some limitations just based on practical feasibility. So for one is like if you want to do a robotics project that cannot be done with simulations, like you need like a physical robot, we just can't do that. There are like data set limitations. So for example, say you want to try to use AI to identify new deep ocean species, that data set does not exist, and we will not be able to collect that. So we can't do that either. And also, say you want to do something that requires intensive human evals. So for example, say you want to like uh, see how well can you improve like LLM processes for teaching elementary school children. That's also just not going to be possible, just because that requires like a lot of human recruitment, and especially at like the elementary school level, that's like just not possible. So besides like practical limitations, we are pretty open as long as we can find a novel research direction. Um, so we would be okay like with interdisciplinary projects. What kind of guidance or mentorship can we expect? So okay, I'll answer a few more questions. I recognize that uh, there's a lot of questions, and I guess like there's still some more slides. So I'll answer maybe like one more right now, and then I'll go ahead and finish the other slides, and I'll wrap back around to these questions. Okay, so this question, what kind of guidance or mentorship can we expect? So yeah, we'll walk you through the end-to-end process. So starting from ideation, we'll help you with like coming up with a novel idea. So we'll give you feedback on your ideas, help shape them, give you more suggestions on exact design decisions for how should we do the experimental design or how should we design the method. What is something that might be novel, what are like some directions you should look into and all that. Then once you get to implementation, we'll help you with all that too. So if you are not sure how to do it like practically with code, well, so like what libraries you should do, maybe that's how you should structure your code base. If you're stuck on a bug, we can help you debug. And then finally, with the paper writing, we'll also give you feedback on the manuscript. We'll have a lot of resources for how to write papers, and we'll also make direct revisions as well because I guess our names are also going out the paper. So we'll also be contributing to that too. In particular, like if these are going to go public and we want them to get accepted, there's like a high bar of quality that we also personally want to meet for just our own reputation. So, like, I guess you can like know that we will be also very like invested and like involved in that process too. Okay, so sorry, I know there's a lot more questions. In the meantime, I'll just go ahead and finish the slides, and then I'll wrap back around. Okay, so yeah, the high level program philosophy, 3 months is a pretty short time. Although, yeah, you might be surprised how much you can accomplish if you can like really dedicate yourself to the project. Um, the primary driver of the research will be you guys. So this is intended to be an educational program. We're like teaching you guys how to like do good ML research. Um, we are not going to be like doing the project for you, and we don't want this to be um, like this is explicitly not one of those programs where it's like you pay and then we give you a paper. Like that is not the intention. This will be a lot of work on your end. It should be a learning experience. So you should like ideally from this program just push your like your personal journey in AI and engineering more broadly, and learn way faster than what you would be otherwise. So yeah, typically if you're just trying to do like a side project or maybe independent research, it is hard to do like good work that has a significant scope and have like actual impact. Our goal is to really help you with that, but we're not going to just like I guess like do it for you. Um, so yeah, that's like the sort of high level conference or high level program philosophy. We'll be aiming for our projects to be for the NeurIPS workshops, maybe EMNLP workshops or NACO main conference, but especially the NeurIPS ones. If it does get rejected, that's not the end of the world. You can always go ahead and resubmit to another one later. So yeah, they happen maybe on every few months, maybe even faster than that. And at a minimum, you can always publish it on archive, which is like the standard location for ML papers nowadays. But yeah, so besides like the program outputs, we do also want to make sure that you guys are learning from this. So getting a good background and fundamentals in ML, doing like a significant project. In general, it'll be a lot of coding too. So like improving software engineering skills too, and just like having a good professional experience, like in like a internship style. Yeah, doing a project with the team and having like defined deliverables with like defined work expectations and all that. So the structure of the program, there's like two main phases. Um, there are the ideation phase and then the implementation phase. So the first 4 weeks, there's two things. We'll be teaching the fundamentals, so the stuff that I just showed you, like from scratch, what even is AI, to like learning more advanced stuff like what is like gradient descent or like backpropagation, and how do like neural networks work, and also like current like research like landscape, things that people are working on. So for example, like RAG, tool usage, interpretability, maybe steering, um, or like just other like current directions in like ML research and LM research specifically. Um, and yeah, also coming up with the idea. So we'll walk you throughout this process. Keep in mind, this is a non-trivial task. There's sometimes like a misconception from beginners, which is like, I could just go ahead and pick an idea and then start researching it. Unfortunately, it's like not that simple because there are a huge body of works that have already existed. Like people publish papers all the time. And so uh, the goal of research is like to do something novel and like push forward science. You have to understand what has already been done before to know what is like a new research gap that has not been explored yet. So yeah, we'll help you like like make the search space more feasible. So you're not gonna just like, reading like tons of papers. I mean, you will be reading a lot of papers, but not like, I guess, not too many. Um, so we'll guide you through that search process, and then we'll also guide you on like giving feedback on coming up with like your ideas to make sure they're feasible, novel, and have potential to have good impact. And then in the second phase of the program, that's actually just going ahead and implementing it. So we'll divide all the tasks across like the students on your team to be worked on in parallel. So at some point, you should expect to work on both coding and writing. And yeah, we expect you to spend at least a few hours per week doing solo work on your tasks. The more, the better. But yeah, at least a few hours per week should be good enough. And during this process, you'll also be learning a lot more just because there's only so much that we can teach in the lecture series. Like we'll teach like the fundamental essentials, but like there'll always be like, specific stuff that your project might entail that might not be covered. So you have to like do some like more learning, and during the research meetings, we can also guide you along that process too. So that's like the high level structure across the weeks, but then within each week, here's what it looks like. So the weekly schedule, there's 2 meetings. There is a lecture that happens on a weekend time slot for an hour and a half. This is where we teach you the concepts and then give you announcements and so on. And starting in week 6, we'll go ahead and convert this into a office hour style thing where it's like a work session plus like another check-in with your mentor. We do that because at that point, we want to just really prioritize your projects because it's getting closer to the deadline. And since you've already committed to an idea at that point, it doesn't really make sense to cover more like baseline conceptual stuff. We've already covered all the basics within the first 5 weeks. We'll just cover some more optional lecture recordings, but at this point, we want to prioritize synchronous time for working on your project with the team. And yeah, the lectures will be posted on Slack. So if you have a conflict on a given week, that's totally okay. Or if you are just like attending from a other time zone where like the lecture time doesn't make sense, in particular like East Asia or like South Asia, in that case, yeah, we can go ahead and you can just watch the recordings too. So that's the lectures. There's also a meeting with your mentor. So this will be scheduled flexibly just based on everyone on your team's availability. Um, and this is also like a factor during team matching. So we'll make sure that there are times available for you to meet comfortably. Um, and yeah, this is just to discuss anything that needs to be discussed to push the project forward. So in the ideation phase, this will be giving feedback on your ideas and helping you with literature review, just whatever needs to be done to figure out and iron out the exact proposal that you want to do. And for the second part of the project, I'll be discussing your research progress. So it'll be kind of like a stand-up style meeting, especially if you've done a prior software engineering internship before. It'll be pretty similar to that. So we'll like first walk around the room to see like what is your progress of the past week. We'll discuss like any blockers, how-tos. So if you're not sure how to do your next steps, like what to do, discussing and interpreting your experimental results. And so it should be, yeah, a pretty productive meeting, hopefully, to just like iron out what the next step should be. So you guys are always able to iterate throughout the week. And on that note, we do want you to not like wait until the check-in for your questions or blockers. Besides like the weekly schedule, like this just shows 2 meetings, but I should clarify, a lot of the time will be asynchronous over Slack. Since the time frame is relatively short, we do want to iterate a lot faster compared to just like these meetings. So as you run into blockers, we want them to be surfaced immediately on Slack so we can like help you faster and then just like make more progress like quicker in general. So yeah, between these meetings, do note that you should also be actively working on your projects. And yeah, so we'll be using Slack for everything. Once you say you enroll in the program, we'll go ahead and send you the Slack invite after the first meeting. Okay, so lastly, I'll just go over some past papers and highlights before I just go ahead and answer more questions. So here's just like a huge slide. I'll just like leave it open for a while. First, if you haven't taken a look at our past papers, definitely go ahead and check that out. So we have our past papers here, separated kind of based on like the conference. So definitely check those out. This will probably be the best reference on what types of projects you can do within the context of the program. I will say that you should bias towards more recent papers just because the research landscape does evolve quickly in AI. So papers from earlier might be like less representative because they are, in 2025 are no longer novel. So for example, this paper, question analysis prompting, this is one of our first papers that got accepted. This was in our first cohort ever. This paper did really well at the time. Like if you search it up right now, it has like 6 citations, which is pretty great. But at the end of the day, currently it is just like a prompting paper. So we just like define a new prompt. Nowadays, the LLMs are robust enough to different prompt perturbations where this is not super relevant. So In 2025, this is probably not publishable, although this was a very good project back in the day. Um, Same with like some of our other older papers. So yeah, take a look at our more recent papers for reference on like say the 2025 ones on like what might be novel nowadays. So for example, like one issue that LLMs face nowadays um, is their attention is not very good for long context. So they end up losing stuff in the middle. That's called LITM or like loss in the middle. So like this is like a new technique to address that problem. In general, like yeah, I guess like LM research, since it moves so fast, the directions that are novel change all the time. So we'll sort of like walk you through what's relevant there. But yeah, the topics themselves are very broad. You can sort of work on a lot of different types of things. Could be like reasoning, could be bias. In the context of LLMs, could be many other things. So definitely check that out. Or apply them all. You can check out our short papers there. So we have some on like dermatology and like what do you call it? Surgery and other biology, computer vision, other random stuff. Some highlights. So for our high school students, here's like two examples of past students who have done really well. So Abe, what is really exceptional about Abe's case is that he came into the program with no prior coding background or AI or research. So this is yeah rather exceptional. So I guess don't treat this as the rule. We do nowadays require coding to be a prerequisite, just because it's like so hard to do if you have no prior coding background. Um, but yeah, back in the day, he actually, since this was program was newer, we were able to accept more people back then. And so I remember actually the exact moment in which I was reading his application and debating whether or not to accept him. Uh, but yeah, we gave him a chance, and it turned out to be one of the best bets I ever took. Yeah, he got cited by Microsoft, Oxford, and UW. He got accepted to an EMNLP workshop, and one of the 20 papers accepted at the NeurIPS high school track. It was also able to get him positions at Stanford, MIT, and UMich. I guess for full disclosure, I did end up giving him the UMich position because I have a connection at that lab, so I just recommended him. But yeah, he was able to get Stanford, MIT by himself. And then we also gave him a return offer just because he did so well. So he finished his second paper. I guess I need to update the slide, but yeah, that one also got accepted. And then his third paper is currently in the works. Another example is Yush. He was one of the authors in the paper that I showed on the first slide. So this one, semantics over consistency. That one was accepted to a NeurIPS workshop. And then and he was also personally just admitted to the university, Stanford, off the wait list after talking about Algoverse and his letter of continued interest, and like a letter of recognition from me as well. So that was pretty cool too. And then also just recently in the past month, the other author on that team, Ryan, also just got accepted to Stanford too. So that was pretty good news too. Um, for college students, some highlights, I guess just are like different placements at different companies. We only had our first track this past winter, 2024. So I guess we'll see more results just as time goes on. But from collecting some the students who reached out to me, I guess yeah, Bardia was a freshman at UC Davis who is now incoming SWE intern at Apple, and he told me that he talked about this as his main experience and in the interviews. James was a freshman at Waterloo in Canada. He's incoming ML engineer at Alpha Point. Daniel, junior at Columbia, incoming trading intern at Optiver. Also listed Algoverse as his first top experience on his resume. And then Sean, yeah, junior at Emory, incoming Gen AI at scale. Um, so yeah, I guess those are some of our highlights. Yeah, if you do the project, hopefully this will look great on your resume and lots of good things can happen. I guess here's also just like some other screenshots I just like took and compiled into here of people getting into various top colleges. And then on the left, here's also just some footage that we had at EMNLP on the left in Miami in November, and then NeurIPS in December for 2024. So yeah, that was also a good time. Yeah, if you were to get accepted, you can also choose whether or not you can go ahead and travel. Um, Unfortunately, we aren't able to sponsor the travel costs just because it just like doesn't work with our margins. We're pretty limited in our funds, but some of the conferences do have travel grants, so you can apply for that. Or if you can self-fund it, yeah, you can always feel free to travel as well. And it should be a pretty fun experience to present it, as well as like networking opportunities. So you can go ahead and talk to other researchers and potentially get collaborations there. So we've had some students go to conferences and get positions at like Northwestern and Columbia from just like talking to other researchers there. Okay, cool. I know I just talked for a really long time. Let me go ahead and answer some more questions. So um, Yeah, let's see. How are the research teams formed? Is there a process for matching participants with complementary skills or research interests? Yeah, so yeah, in the first week of the program, we will release a team matching form, and then we'll ask a ton of details there on like intended topics of interest, prior background, bunch of other stuff like age, basic logistical stuff, all that. And then we will, yeah, sit down, spend a long time. Like this takes me historically on the order of like 10 to 20 hours to just go ahead and like really make sure the teams are like really good. Um, yeah, that might seem like that's like more time than it actually takes, but like there's lots of constraints and there's no easy way to solve it. So this happens to be just like yeah, a very time intensive process. But anyways, I go ahead and like make the teams ideally just based on all those different factors combined. So we will go ahead and like match you with uh, people of like similar backgrounds. So like, if you're already really experienced, we'll put you with other really experienced people. If you're really new, we'll put you with other newer people. If there's like topics of interest, we'll try to like make sure they align. So someone who wants to do like a like medicine project doesn't get matched with someone who wants to do like LM interpretability, for example. And then yeah, also basic time zone stuff. So if you're like based in like Asia, it'll be hard to collaborate with people in the US. So we'll also put you with like other people in similar time zones and like college versus high school as well. Okay. Do I get my research paper reviewed before I get submitted? Um, yeah, so we'll be very involved in the review process. So it's not just going to be like a one-time review. Like your mentor throughout the weeks as it's being written will give you like iterative feedback, and then also our directors at the end will also give you like a detailed review, maybe a second review, and I'll also like personally review it as well if I have the time as well. Um, so yeah, it'll be like heavily reviewed. In fact, we only allow the paper to get submitted if we review it. So here's like for reference, like our paper writing resources that we give to our students. Um, yeah, we only will submit papers that have been reviewed by us first because, uh, yeah, in general, we've had papers, people in the past try to cram at the last minute and then not have us like, or and then there's no time for us to review it. But that like has just never gotten accepted, just because like it's too hard to get a paper in if you've never written it before. You definitely need our feedback. So yeah, in that case, like we will not even submit it for ethical reasons because for context in ML, reviewers are already overburdened. There's so many people submitting that there's like never enough reviewers to like really handle that like load. So we don't want to contribute to that problem. Like we are like a big organization nowadays. Uh, I guess not that big still, but we'll get bigger and bigger. And like just ethically speaking, like we don't want to like contribute to this problem. So yeah, we'll only submit papers if it gets reviewed by us first. Um, okay. Another question: is there a set of projects that we choose from, or do we get to choose our own research project? So it's actually there's two options, or maybe kind of like three options. So the first option is you have a idea that you already came up with like from the past or like in the first few weeks of the program, and you can go ahead and get our feedback. We'll help shape it and turn it into something novel if there's promise. Um, so that's option number one. Option number two is that you go ahead and pick one of our predefined projects. So our directors have like agendas of different topics that they would love to see happen, but they don't have time. So this is nice because they're already pre-vetted and it saves time on ideation. You just go directly into working on something that you know will work. So that's option number two. And option number three is like a kind of like in between, where our mentors have like a general like specialty. Like say, for example, one of our mentors has specialty in like AI safety evals. This will be listed in the team matching form, like which option you want to do. If you want to go ahead and if you're interested in that topic, but you still want to like come up with like your own idea, but within a guided search space, like within that area of expertise from our mentor, you can do that too. So yeah, we'll be pretty flexible on where the idea is coming from. Most of the projects in the past have came from student proposed ideas. So for example, like every single one of these ideas actually were student proposed because we only introduced the option of having pre-vetted project ideas that we give in the past winter cohort. So before that, for example, like this paper that got cited by OpenAI, I'm pretty sure that was Tim. It was either Tim or Ryan, I forgot who. But yeah, I think Tim just like came up with the idea, like via our lecture series, which was pretty great. Like we gave him guidance, of course, on like how exactly we should do everything. I can give some more details about that if you're curious on like what exactly that process looks like for um, ironing out a research idea. But um, I guess let me go answer some of the questions first. You can feel free to ask if you're curious about that. Yeah, how are research informed? Okay, I think I answered that. What is the criteria for getting a scholarship and how many students get it? So the criteria for scholarship, what we look for in particular is very similar to the main application. I'm looking at the wrong slide. Okay. Yeah, the main thing that matters is still prior coding background. So in general, what we've seen is students who have more experience like building side projects and just like iterating on like self-driven like extended period of time like big scope projects tend to just like have an easier time on the project, which makes sense because like this is also like pretty heavy on coding. So yeah, that's like the main criteria. Although we do look at other stuff too. So like if you have like good SAT or good like go to a top school if you're already in college, or um, like say you've done some like Olympiads, that's always good too. That's pretty good signal. So yeah, there's all that, and then there's like a few other questions that we ask like on the scholarship form. As for how many students get it, it's pretty selective nowadays, just because there's way too many people like applying. Well, I mean that's a good thing. Like not too many people applying, but there's a lot of people applying. So um, yeah, it's pretty selective. I don't know what the exact rate is nowadays, but yeah, it's pretty hard. Oh yeah, so everything I just said is for the merit scholarship. For the financial aid scholarship, the same criteria holds. So like the I guess like programming background and other stuff like that. But yeah, we also take into consideration your financial background too. So um, yeah, just based on like the degree of need. So I guess like for reference, we can go anywhere between 15 to 100%, depending on, say, for example, just like some ballpark figures. If you are like in the US and household income of like 100K, no matter how good your application is, we probably just won't be able to get higher than like 15% or something. Um, well, in most cases, I guess. And then for on the other hand, like say you're from a country where like the US dollar is like an order of magnitude greater than like your local currency. In that case, we might do even to get 100%. This is assuming like this is like an and statement of like this as well as like the other criteria that I just mentioned. So assuming that you're also like highly qualified with respect to the other applicants who are applying at roughly the same time. Um, yeah, we'll do just like some sort of like selection and like sorting process there. Um, so yeah, we try to be pretty generous with this. Like on a high level, our goal with like this program is to increase accessibility in AI research. But I guess also just practically speaking, there's just so many people applying nowadays, and we are limited in funding. So we'll try to admit as many people as we can. But I guess like yeah, it might be pretty competitive. Okay, another question. I recently enrolled, but I received an application saying that I received an email saying my application uh, was received. I just want to make sure your enrollment went through. Yeah, if you enrolled, then it should have went through. I guess maybe just send me an email and I can double check for you. Um, this is my email. But yeah, you can go ahead and it's probably fine. Just send me an email. Um, let's see. Sorry, I need to scroll up pretty far. Okay. Can we use this paper in science fairs too after the program? Uh, yeah, I think you can. As long as you like follow the rules of the science fair, that should be fine. I think on the top of my head, like ISEF, if you're in high school, the teams are like teams of three. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure how that works. Maybe it's also possible to just like say that this is part of a broader collaboration and do this with respect to um, and like say that this is part of the work of like a bigger work or something. Um, yeah, I'm not sure. We could talk about it, but I think it is doable. Okay. Will you provide the infrastructure needed for developing and evaluating research ideas? Yeah, so cloud VMs or OpenAI subscription, all that. Yeah, so we will. So yeah, all the cost of compute will be covered in our program. So for reference, like for GPUs, we'll be using RunPod. So you can kind of see what people are working on right now, actually. It looks like there's a good number of teams who are currently running stuff. Um, so that'll be for GPUs. Also looks like I have to refill this pretty soon. And then we'll also provide APIs. So for reference, like for OpenAI API, they have like, their API. And then so we'll give you like an API key and all that. So yeah, we'll provide anything that's needed. Let's see, how selective is the program and the scholarships? Uh, yeah, so I don't have the exact details nowadays. I'm not the one that like I'm like the main person reading applications nowadays. So yeah, unfortunately, I'm not sure. The scholarships on a high level, I don't know the stats, but I guess yeah, they're very selective. How open is the program to projects that are applied or product oriented rather than purely theoretical? Yeah, that's a good question. So overall, it has to be of interest to academic researchers because we tend to aim for the academic conferences. So there are some like LLM projects that tend to have like a pretty product orient, but they're not like directly product oriented, I guess. I guess I didn't really explain that very well. Like for example, uh in this program, we probably wouldn't like, for example, like do a project uh that we like how do I explain this? Like mm, okay, I'm not sure what's the best way to explain this, but yeah, overall, like it has to be like of interest, like academic researchers. Uh, Sometimes that will involve like something that is like is more applied and like could have some like industry impact because like some, for example, like papers, uh, like in ML are just highly of interest to industry people. For example, like one paper I was involved with back when I was in college was like this one. Uh, let's see. Yeah, so like Sense AI. This one was like highly interested. We had like people when we presented it from like Meta, like let's see who else, like VMware, a few other companies, like all like um yeah, pretty interested in the project. But yeah, it'll kind of depend. Um, does an early application impact our chances of admission? Yeah, it does. So in particular, like we have rolling admissions, and at some point we'll just like run out of space, and then we just won't be able to accept anyone, no matter how good their application is. So in general, applying earlier is better. Um, the May 25th one is almost full. The June 7th one is also almost full. The other two are still pretty open. Can you submit your paper to as many conferences as possible? What types of papers typically get into NeurIPS the most? Also, what makes a great research paper from a basic one? So yeah, you can submit. Okay, so the exact details of how it works is that there are archival and there are non-archival conferences. So archival means that it will get archived into a uh, proceedings that the conference releases afterwards. Non-archival means that they'll still publish it publicly, but it'll be like on their website or on OpenReview. When you submit to an archival conference, you are banned from submitting to any other archival conferences if it were to get accepted. So if you were to get accepted, then that's like it's kind of like early decision, I guess, for colleges. They're like committed to that. If it gets rejected, you could resubmit it. For non-archival, you could submit to as many non-archival as you want. So that's the first answer to the first question. Um, yeah. Uh, if you were to, okay, what types of papers typically get nerfs the most? There's no great answer to this besides like the basic criteria I mentioned of just like novelty, impact, and feasibility. It has to be like clearly written. The experiments should be rigorous. Um, Whatever metrics and sort of like evaluation criteria exist for top conferences in general, that's like the same for NeurIPS. What makes a great paper from a basic one? I guess probably also basically the same answer I just said. I think yeah, ultimately like novelty and impact. Like it should ideally tackle a big enough scope of a question where it's of interest. Um, but at the same time, it can't be too big because it has to still be feasible, and it has to be something that people care about. So like, does it like really push forward the field? For example, like uh, yeah, I guess yeah. Unfortunately, I'm not sure if I can give a better answer than that, but that's like sort of the evaluation criteria. If you are a senior in high school about to go into undergrad after summer, who would you be working with? That's actually a good question. I haven't really thought about that. Um, I think that's like pretty flexible on whether you'd be working with college or high school students, because I guess you're kind of in between. I'm not sure that matters too much. I think I would probably err a little bit closer to the end of high school, but since I think that once you like experience like your first semester in college, like there's like a pretty big spike in like maturity levels there, but it's not a huge preference, honestly. I don't think that's like a huge deal in my mind. Can we get this slide? Yeah, we can. So it's restricted access right now, but if you go ahead and click on the link and request access, I can go and send it to you afterwards. Um, okay, let's see. Let me scroll up again. Uh, Give me one second. I'm scrolling up. Yeah, there's a lot of questions. So thanks for having all those questions. That's a lot of good questions. But okay. Okay. Will having little research experience disqualify someone from being accepted into the program? Uh, so that's generally not true. Like we are explicitly trying to like bring more people into research. So if you have no prior background, that's not supposed to hurt you. Um, Only in the case where it's like we only have very few spots left. then we have to make like decision calls. In that case, we might, but otherwise, that should not disbar you. What is the expected timeline for scholarship decisions, and will we be notified before the program start date? Um, so yeah, scholarships typically tend to take a little bit longer for us to review compared to the normal application, just because there's like more information there, and there's like yeah, it's a harder decision. Um, yeah, as for when it'll happen, I'm not really sure. I need to get back with our admissions team. I think like uh, it should be within like 2 to 3 weeks at minimum. It should be before the program begins. So if you apply, like say like now, we should definitely be able to get back to you before the program begins. Probably within the context or within the time span of about like 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, how much work is typically done outside weekly meetups? Yeah, so this will depend. We recommend like the guideline that we give to students in general is 5 to 10 hours per week, like for the program in general. That might seem like a small number, might seem like a big number, depending on, I guess, your bandwidth, but it really is very flexible. So we have some students who do like probably maybe just a few hours per week of extra coding, so maybe like 4 hours per week. We have some students who like are like so in love with their project and they're like, I feel like they're like always responding on Slack and like doing stuff. So at that point, I guess I've never like surveyed people, but I personally guess maybe like up to even like 20 hours a week. Um, so yeah, it really just depends on like your bandwidth and like I guess like your passion for the project. But yeah, our recommendation is like 5 to 10 hours. If you want to like have really good chances of getting accepted at the conference, like the more time you put in, the higher your chances are. So that is good, I guess. But probably yeah, if you want to have like a higher chance, maybe I'd recommend like 8 to 12 hours per week or something. Um, okay, someone asked, not sure if you answered this before. Can you clarify how flexible is the program in terms of interdisciplinary AI research? Yeah, so just to give a brief TLDR, we are open to it. The caveat is that A, you should either have some domain experience, or B, you should work on one of the domains that one of our mentors already have backgrounds in. And then C, there is a caveat that we just cannot do projects if they're sort of infeasible. Like for example, if there's no data set, or if it requires like extremely intensive human evals. Like for example, like elementary school students need to recruit them, or like needing to recruit like yeah, someone that speaks like a low resource language. Uh, actually, we have done that sometimes, but it's a little bit harder. But yeah, in general, we are open. We, like Applied ML is like one of our tracks, and you could definitely do that if you want. How flexible is the program in terms of daily schedule? Um, yeah, within a given day, I guess besides like the scheduled meetings, we're very flexible. So you can do whenever you do your work like asynchronously, like whenever you're free. Do we select our mentors? Um, Kind of, not really. So like if you select a certain domain of interest for applied ML, like say for example, if you select that you really want to do biology or like medicine, then we will just match you with like Ben, because that's our guy for that. But besides that, like in our form, we'll like ask you like if there are topics of interest that you're more interested about. Um, if you are, then you'll go ahead and like we'll match you with them. If not, then we'll just go ahead and like like assign a mentor. Um, we will try our best to honor like all the top preferences that you have, but it is a huge constraint satisfaction problem, and I guess we cannot always guarantee it. So I'll say that like in general, we are pretty good most of the time for this, but it's just not 100% guaranteed. Is there a set of projects to choose from, or do we get to choose our own project? So again, the three options are either you do a predefined project from one of our directors, or you ideate yourself, or you do some in-between option where you explore within a mentor's domain of expertise. Can you send the check-in link? Oh yeah, so that's a good reminder. So here's the check-in link. Definitely go ahead and fill it out to confirm that you attended. Okay. Do the researchers who wrote the papers have to attend the conferences if they're recognized or selected as at conferences? So it's optional. If you can make it, we definitely recommend doing it because like it should be a great experience. It's just like a life experience. Also, should be fun. Should be good networking. Should be all that. But it's not like technically required. Well, technically, it generally is required, but if you can't make it, I can do the registration. Okay, I enrolled in two different cohorts, first choice and second choice. If both are filled, can I enroll via other time slots? Yeah, you still can. Postgrads are allowed to join. Yeah, so you're still allowed to join if you are a postgrad. So if you're like, we have a few SWEs in the industry working with us as well. So for example, like we have two SWEs in Apple working in the spring cohort. We have one at Retool. We have some masters and PhD students as well. How many groups are there? Um, yeah, this will depend on the cohort and based on the demand. We haven't finished admission, so I'm not entirely sure about this, but yeah, it's also going to be limited by the number of mentors that are qualified that I can find. So I'm also in the ending stages of the recruitment process. So yeah, I guess TBD on that. How are research teams formed? Is there a process for matching? Yeah, okay. So the team matching form, in the first week, we'll ask a bunch of questions, some about skill level, some about research interest, some about a bunch of other stuff. So we'll do all the team matching that way. Is there a direct quota as to how many people get accepted in the program? Uh, yeah, it's just defined based on the amount of qualified mentors I can find. So based on that, we'll define the cap. How much guidance will we receive from mentors? So we'll walk you through the overall process end to end. So from like ideation, we'll help you with like coming up with idea. For implementation, we'll help you with how to do it and like debugging. And for paper writing, we'll help you with like how to do that, as well as like revisions directly as well. So we'll be very involved throughout the entire process. Is there any way that we can choose who our mentor is during the program if we're admitted to the program? So yeah, that's I guess maybe what I just answered, like with the team match form. How many research teams in the past have done research engineering or robotics related? I know that AI can be used for sensors like deep sensor fusion. So robotics, not many. We've used like VLMs in the past, or VLMs as in like vision language models, which often are used for like physical things. Like, can you get language models to answer certain questions about the physical world, or like what it would do, like VLA as well, vision language action models too. But generally, not much robotics. We've done a little bit of RL, but typically only if you have like some prior background in that, because RL is pretty difficult. The training is very unstable unless you have prior background there. So yeah, in general, like since we don't have a physical lab, we don't have many robotics papers. Um, yeah, that's like a bit of a limitation. But yeah, if you can find like a novel scope, then that would be open. And like a novel feasible scope. And we can also help you with that too. But in general, we don't do that many. How does knowing Python assist with researching? So yeah, knowing Python is required for the projects because so when you do the research, eventually you'll have to implement the experiments that you want to do. Typically, this involves like, taking in the LLMs, maybe doing some model training, maybe doing some evaluation with just inference. But overall, like you'll be needing to write Python code in order to uh, like write the experiments, basically. Like this will be a very empirical, so you have to like, set up like your notebooks and like, set up the code so that you can test the experiments, basically. If you join the last summer cohort, is it possible to get a citation before college apps? Is it possible to get a citation before college apps? That's a bit ambitious. Probably not, because so for reference, the last summer cohort that ends like October 5th. So yeah, the paper will get released October 5th, and then like people have to like see this paper right when it gets released, and then like have open time where they want to directly build off what you're doing, and then like they have to actually finish their paper too, which probably takes at least a few months too, and then if they submit to the conference, then after that, then you can get cited. So citations take a long time. So citation, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen before college apps. Conference acceptance, that could happen. So if you were to submit to the conference and then get accepted, you probably hear back in like October. Well, actually, if you do the last summer cohort, you probably would hear back later. But yeah, if you do like the earlier summer cohort, you would hear about like October, and that will come in time. What is the selection criteria for joining the program? Yeah, so that's primarily based on coding background. That's like definitely the biggest factor by far. But we also care about other like general metrics like GPA, SAT, like or if you're already in college, like the college itself, like the ranking, um, and a bunch of other factors too. Can students be grad students for this program? Yeah, you can. So we have a few master students and PhDs, so you could do that too. How to update the resume after submission? Yeah, so that will depend on what you're going for. So maybe I'll try to answer this with respect to if you're in high school versus if you're in college. If you're in high school, probably what you want to do is say you were to get accepted. You can like the exact thing that I would maybe say is like parentheses accepted to blank conference, like say NeurIPS 2025, with paper blank name of the paper. Um, yeah, there are some people who have optimized this more heavily that I've talked to in the past. So, for example, like some high school students that I've talked to in the past have opted out towards like not saying that it's from Algoverse and instead saying that it's like under like a PhD student at blank university. You could do that too. I don't know how much that really matters to like remove that distinction, but I guess you could do that. For college students, typically I just see people say like research engineering intern or like ML research engineering intern or something like that at Algoverse, and then it's just like description of like your product. And also, yeah, definitely like this is like general resume advice. Like on the first bullet point, you should list like the most impressive thing. So if you get accepted, you should put that first. So you should put like accepted at blank, conference, and then name of paper, link of paper, so on. If you do not get in, will you still get an email? Yeah, so if you don't get accepted in the program, we'll still send a rejection letter. If you haven't received a email, that just means we haven't processed it yet. So we are currently processing a backlog. We have about 2 weeks worth of applications that we need to get through. So it's, uh, yeah, a pretty decent amount of applications. But we are planning on releasing admissions tomorrow and Tuesday. So um, yeah, you should hear from us tomorrow or Tuesday. Um, if you don't hear from us, you should check your spam or promotions folder, or you should send me an email, or send the admissions inbox an email. But yeah, we are planning on getting through all of them on Monday and Tuesday. How does Algoverse facilitate collaboration between international students in different time zones? Yeah, so during the team matching process, try to match you with people in a similar time zone. So, for example, if you are in East Asia or South Asia, we'll try to match you with similar people, so that it's a little bit easier to work with. Does NeurIPS 2025 still have a high school track? It seems like it's not listed on the website. Also, the deadline for the main paper or submission should be in May. Are we mainly aiming for conferences next year? Yeah, so for reference, no idea on the high school track. They haven't released anything about that. As for the submissions, so if you take a look at their website, oops, that's not the right one. Um, here's what that looks like. So the actually deadline is today for the main conference. So and the data sets and benchmarks. So actually we have some teams that are like scrambling for that right now. But the workshops, this is not actually the deadline for the workshops. This is the deadline for workshops to get accepted to the conference. So the way that works is that basically workshops are actually organizations, typically like university labs, sometimes industry labs, and they need to go through their own application process to get accepted by the conference. So there's like a ton of workshops that apply, and then it's also pretty selective. NeurIPS will accept the best workshops that they want to see accepted at their conference, and um, then once they're accepted, they'll release that. They typically get released in around July. And if you see here, the workshop mandatory acceptance rejection notification date is September 22nd. So typically this is the deadline for when the workshop needs to tell you that you've been accepted. The workshops themselves have a bit of flexibility on when they want to specify the deadline. So typically that's like slightly before this because they need to give enough time for them to review, like roughly like 3 weeks. So like roughly the deadline for the workshops will vary on a workshop, but around early September or late August. And that's like, yeah, why we also did that because that's like at the end of our program. Okay. Will we have to travel for the conference to be eligible for the program? I'm not sure if I can afford travel costs. So you don't need to uh, be eligible, or you don't need to be able to travel to the conference to be eligible for the program, because you don't need to attend to the a conference if you can't. So yeah, if you can't attend the conference, that's fine. We can, either. I mean, I'll be attending all of them, so I'll just like register on your behalf, like for like myself for the paper being registered. Can we talk with you afterwards if you have a personal question? You can send me an email. Unfortunately, I'm actually like kind of late to like this meeting that I'm supposed to be at. I'm actually quite late to that, so um, I cannot. But yeah, you can send me an email. I can answer that afterwards. Um, does submitting our applications earlier? Yeah. So this is what I answered before as well. So this like rolling admissions. Um, let's see. Is the program 100% virtual? Can group members plan face-to-face meets if feasible? Yeah, so it's fully online. Although if you guys happen to be in a like similar location, then you can. That generally doesn't happen just because you have to be like based on locality, like you have to be like really close to each other. This only really happened if two students go to the same university or to the same high school. So that's happened before. But besides that, it might be kind of hard just logistically for that to happen. You definitely can if it's possible, but I guess like yeah, it's fully online. Uh, what are the most promising recent advancements in algorithm development that have significantly impacted AI performance, and how do you foresee these evolving in the near future with Algoverse? Okay, that's a really interesting question. So, okay, I guess the most recent developments in the context of um, LLM are inference time optimization. So, for reference, like O1, O2, O3, or I don't even know O2 exists, like O1 and O3 or like DeepSeek. These are all examples of like these like models instead of really spamming on the pre-training, but rather on the inference time, can they just like get more bang for your buck on what's already been pre-trained? And that's just because people are reaching scaling limits on how much we can just throw more compute at it. But O3 has been doing really well. O3 is pretty amazing. So I guess like there's that development and also like the I guess like uh, approximate answers towards that aren't like O3. For example, like S1 uh, from like I believe this is Stanford. Uh, yeah, this is Stanford. So Percy Long and Hashimoto, these are from Stanford, and effectively they introduced like how can you get a normal LM to do this with just a weight token that they attend multiple times. So this is like a pretty interesting direction. It's very saturated, so people are like really, uh, yeah, really aiming for this right now. Um, besides that, like, yeah, long context is always pretty interesting. RAG is always also pretty competitive. Tool usage also very competitive with like Manus and like deep research as well. Uh, yeah. Um, there's still a lot of like open works that need to be done in observability. Like Anthropic has been like the only, or not the only, but like one of the only like companies that are actually like spending a lot of like resources towards this. So like a lot of circuits have not been identified for behaviors within a lot of LLMs. So interp is like always pretty promising. Um, Safety evals, I think, will also become more and more relevant as models get stronger and stronger. People will actually take them more seriously. I guess like right now we're still pretty early. We're not that early, but we're still pretty early. So like people don't really, I guess like worry too much about like, well, the general populace doesn't really worry too much about like how, um, you know, AI might lead to like existential risks, like with like developing like bioweapons or cybersecurity or other stuff like that. But yeah, as models get better, that's going to be like a serious concern. I mean, I've been concerned about this for a long time, but I guess like at least in the mainstream, this is going to be more and more popular as time goes on. Um, Data efficiency is also going to be really popular. Like we want to see how well can we extract the same benefits with less data. So data distillation, um, and what other techniques we can do to like really optimize what value we are getting from our existing data sets. Um, but yeah, that's a very interesting question. I could talk a long time about that, but I guess those are a few directions. Um, can we get the recording of this meet? If you send me an email afterwards, I can. Otherwise, I'm not planning on sending it to. Actually, I think I might be planning on sending it to everyone. So yeah, I might send it to everyone. Or you can email me just in case. Uh, let's see. Does having basic knowledge of Python help with qualifying for the program? Yeah, Python should be like a basic prerequisite for the program, actually. Nowadays, we are less generous with accepting people if you don't have prior background in Python. Um, so you really should have Python for doing the program, just because like yeah, we will do a lot of Python programming. If I'm enrolled, when will I get the Slack? Yeah, so we'll send you the Slack on the day of the program beginning. So that'll happen like on the start date. We'll send you like reminders before that, just so you can like be acclimated and be ready and don't forget about it. But like, yeah, we'll send you the Slack invite once the program begins. Where will we be able to communicate with our team? Um, yeah, so that'll be all over all over Slack. You're allowed to come up with like a extra like separate communication channel if you want. Like you definitely can. Like via like text or Instagram DM or Discord or whatever. So you can do that too. But we'll in general be using Slack and within our program to talk with like your mentor or like the directors and stuff. How selective is Algoverse? Like its acceptance rate? Uh, yeah, I'm not sure about the exact stats nowadays. Since there's other people on our team that are running the admissions, when I'm a little bit more less hands off or less hands on than it was originally. I know that's been getting more competitive every semester. This summer is going to be the most competitive yet, but I just don't know how selective it is. I still don't think it's going to be like that selective question mark, but we'll see, I guess, depending on the number of applicants that we get before, for example, like June 7th is our most popular one. That one might end up being pretty selective just based on like capacity limits. Um, but yeah, I guess we'll see. Can we optimize our code with C++? You can. So there's, if you need to. If you don't need to, there's no point. But for example, an LLM efficiency product, for this one, for reference on the top of my head, um, let's see, where do I find this? Okay, so the CVPR paper that we did, oh, I guess there's no link yet. Yeah, this one, since this is a efficiency paper, we're seeing how well can we make LLMs or neural networks. This one was CNNs actually. How else we can make CNNs more efficient with pruning, neuron pruning. Yeah, they actually ended up using like CUDA and like C++ shit to like try to optimize everything. But in general, you probably don't need to. Okay, I'm sorry. I actually really do need to go now. Unfortunately, yeah, I've a meeting that I'm quite late to. But I really hope that this was useful. If you have any other questions, definitely feel free to ask me more questions. Um, okay, just answer that. To answer that one question, yeah, it is open to international students. Yeah, if you have any other questions, you can reach me at this email. I'll be like more active here compared to the admissions email, which is like a shared inbox. Um, and then here's also my phone number as well. If you want to text me, I'm also more active there too. Um, so yeah, hopefully this was useful. Thanks for attending. I'm sorry I don't have time to answer more questions, but yeah, yeah, feel free to send an application if you haven't done that yet. It should be on our website. If you have, and you want to like talk to me about like your personal decision on whether you want to pursue the program, definitely reach out and I can talk to you there too. The attendance form is here. Um, so yeah, you can feel free to submit that. But yeah, hopefully you found this useful. Definitely fill this out. This will also give us like good feedback as well on like how to improve this info session moving forward and also just to track your attendance. Um, can you share your LinkedIn also? Sure. So that's my LinkedIn. Um, okay, cool. Yeah, thanks for attending.